The making of a person. Today I sat in a tutorial listening to a woman I admired, not because she was the loudest person in the room, not because she had all the answers. There was just something about her, the way she carried herself, the way she spoke, the depth behind her words. And she shared stories from her career. She spoke about a time she crossed professional boundary to protect a woman and child, not as a lesson, not as a justification, just as a part of her journey. What struck to me wasn't the decision itself, it was the person behind it. The years it had taken to become her, the experience she had carried, the reflection she had clearly done along the way, the understanding that life doesn't always fit neatly inside frameworks, policies, ethics, legislation, or theories. As she spoke, I found myself thinking about all the frameworks we learn, theories, models, ethical decision making, professional boundaries, codes of conduct, all important, all necessary, yet none of them exist in isolation from the person applying them. Because frameworks don't make decisions, people do. And people bring themselves into every room they walk into, their values, their fears, their experiences, their biases, their strengths, their wounds. Then I looked around the room, a full room of future practitioners, a full room of people becoming, and I found myself wondering about the lives sitting in front of me, the journeys that had brought them here, the stories they carried, the stories they didn't, the ways they understand themselves, the ways they didn't. Not from a place of judgment, from curiosity, because every one of those people will leave an impact on the world. Some will sit with people on the worst day of their lives. Some will advocate. Some will challenge systems. Some will become leaders. Some will become the person a child remembers decades later. Some will change lives without ever knowing they did. And all of that impact will be shaped not only by what they know, but by who they are and who they become. I think that's what stayed with me. Not the ethical challenge, not the boundary, the making of a person, the understanding that knowledge alone is never enough. Because I've met people with qualifications who lack insight. I've met people with endless knowledge who have never truly examined themselves. I've met people with all the right words and none of the depth. And I've met people whose lived experience has taught them things no textbook ever could. Sitting here, I realize this isn't just about learning frameworks, it's about learning myself. And if I'm honest, that's the part I find hardest to sit with because her story just didn't make me think about who she is. It made me think about who I am and who I am becoming. Where do I sit in this? What kind of practitioner do I want to be? What happens when my values collide with policy? When my instincts collide with process? When my voice collides with systems? I've spent much of my life questioning things, challenging things, pushing back against things that don't make sense. I've fought systems, advocated for my children and others, advocated for myself, walked into rooms where I wasn't expected to have a voice and used it anyway. Now I find myself entering a profession that asks for reflection, accountability, boundaries, and ethical practice. And I don't see that as a contradiction. I see it as a tension, one I'm still learning to hold, because part of my journey has been finding purpose, finding language for things I could feel long before I could explain them, understanding that my ability to tell a story, see patterns, question systems, and speak into difficult spaces is not something I need to get rid of. It's mine. The challenge is learning how to use it well, how to hold conviction without certainty, how to challenge without becoming rigid, how to remain human inside systems designed to create order, how to keep my voice without letting it drown out everyone else's. Maybe that's why her story stayed with me. It wasn't really about the ethical challenge, it was about becoming, about the long, messy, uncomfortable process of becoming the kind of person who can sit in complexity, the kind of person who can hold competing truths, the kind of person who understands that frameworks matter, but humanity matters too. As I sat there looking at her, then looking around the room, then looking back at myself, I realised something. We're all becoming someone, every single one of us. And whether we realise it or not, the people we become will shape the lives of the people we touch. That's a responsibility. It's also a privilege. And if I'm honest, it's one I'm still trying to find my place within.